Hello. I have this weird allergy called alpha gal, and my recollection of when I first got it was somewhere around 1976. Back when I was a little girl, I was around 7 years old, and my family went to Texas for the holiday. And while I was down there, I got bit by a tick. Ever since that time, I had asthma, or what I thought was asthma. I would have breathing problems and all these things. And my dad was a doctor, and he always was like, this does not seem like asthma. This is not asthma. And my mom would be like, this is asthma. And it was like, they were back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then when I turned 18, I went to the mainstream doctors, and they were all like, you have asthma. And they gave me an inhaler, and they put me on a protocol where I took the Flonase in the middle of the day, and then an inhaler, 2 inhalers in the morning, and then 2 inhalers at night, and the spraying up the nose and doing all this stuff. But the thing was, is I always had trouble because all those sprays and all those things, they didn't do anything for me. It never helped, and it always felt like this isn't working. And the only thing that did work was the adrenaline, the emergency inhaler that you're supposed to only take when you have an emergency. But it was the only thing that worked. And I was constantly. But we were a meat and potatoes family. So I was eating meat all the time. I was constantly in one phase or the other of some sort of inflammation everywhere. It was just systemic over and over and over again. My whole childhood was like that. All the way up until my 30s, I was like that. And it was just an astounding revelation when in 2005, my endocrinologist said, looking at my blood work, and he noticed it in my blood, he goes, "You're allergic to bovine." And I'm like, what? And I didn't believe him. I thought he was full of crap. And so all this time goes by, and I'm like listening to that, and I'm like, no. And then I go over to my doctor, my other doctor, and I say, the endocrinologist says I'm allergic to bovine. And she goes, well, let's test it out. And I had a full-blown anaphylactic reaction the minute she tested it in her office. And I guess I didn't want to believe it anyway. I was sure that was wrong. It was all in my head. I'm imagining things. You do know how many times doctors told me I was imagining things, even with my lips swollen and my lips, everything swollen. I couldn't breathe. I'm having all these things. They said it was caused by an emotion or whatever. Anyway, so then all this time I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm kind of allergic to beef. So I stopped eating beef, but I'm still eating other things. And then I go on to this trip to Turkey, and I'm over in Turkey, and I find this lamb stew, lamb stew. I'm going to have lamb stew. I'm so excited. And then, third bite in, full-on anaphylaxis. And we had grilled the guy who's serving it beforehand. He said there was absolutely no beef, but he lied. He admitted after I had my full-on anaphylactic reaction that beef is cheaper than lamb, and he puts a little bit in it to make it go further. Ha! So anyway, I guess he learned his lesson. Don't lie to the customer. So I had this anaphylactic reaction, and that is when I discovered I have alpha gal. And I am allergic to meat. And it wasn't until that point that I truly believed it. It didn't matter. All the other tests didn't matter. It was that time when it was actually a blind thing. I had no idea I was being tested. And that happened, and I was like, okay, it's real. That was just the beginning of my journey. My journey is very long and complicated. But I have to tell you, despite all that, this journey has given me so many blessings. I'm incredibly grateful. I will tell you more about my story later.